Welcome, everybody, to the Big Book Roundtable in the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. I'm so happy to gather around this table once again with Nikki and David and dive deep into this. We're going to be wrapping up Chapter 5, How It Works, in today's episode. So if you've jumped in now, go back and listen to the last handful of episodes. How it works, won't listen to all of it, but man, there's been some really, really good stuff. So I'm joined by, like I said, Nikki and David, and the three of us are striving to live this miracle of recovery one day at a time. And I'm grateful to be teamed up with them. Let's start off with a little bit of introduction. Nikki, why don't you start off today? Introduce yourself and say hi.
Hi, I'm Nikki M, and I'm just so grateful to be at this roundtable. The book says there will be certain trials and low spots. And if I don't perfect, not be perfect, but if I don't perfect and enlarge my spiritual life through work, and this is self-sacrificing. I mean, I love to be here with you guys, but we commit every once a week to do this. And I'm just grateful to be living this book with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. David, please introduce yourself and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your service, Justin. Always good to be here with you, Miss Nikki. I'm David G. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts from Oklahoma. Grateful for my recovery today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I don't think I introduced myself other than just saying hi. I'm Justin B. I am a son of an all-powerful, all-loving God and a multidisciplinary addict, and I am in Spokane, Washington. Grateful to be from all over North America here around this table. It's a miracle that we can do these types of things, and I'm grateful for that. All right. As I said, we are going to continue and finish up Chapter 5, How It Works, with just the last two paragraphs we're going to be reading in this episode. And we will then do some commenting and some deep diving into these last two paragraphs and reviewing this. So let's jump right into our reading. Once again, starting on the bottom of page 70, if we have been thorough, through the end of page 71. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. If you have already made a decision and your inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. All right, so there's the last two paragraphs of How It Works. Nikki, why don't you take us through that line by line according to your experience, strength, and hope, and tell us a little bit about what you understand there.
Yes, I mean, I love this part and I know it well because these pages, I should say, hi, I'm Nikki and Nikki M, and I am a love addict, a sex addict, a fantasy addict, a validation addict. So I'm right on the pages I need to be in. But it says, if we've been thorough, and yes, I put a yes there. I've been thorough about my personal inventory. It doesn't say your government's inventory, Nikki. It doesn't say your children's inventory. It says yours. And I spent many years, I'm 51, many years taking everyone's inventory. This is about me and looking hardcore facts about me. And yeah, I wrote down a lot. Now, again, we've talked very many different ways to do this inventory, to do these steps. There is one way, of course, directly out of the big book. And it says written down a lot. It doesn't say a Bible. Thick 500-page story about my life. I've listed, and here it is for people like me, the Virgos, the Al-Anons, the codependents of the world. We get to analyze. This is the one part we can analyze. They're giving us, because to analyze is to paralyze everybody. If you analyze things for too long, you're paralyzed. And this is where it says we can look deep and analyze these resentments. And we're beginning to comprehend. We understand their futility. I will die. Fatality, I will die. It's futile, pointless, and fatal. We're all dead because I'm destructive to everyone. And I have commenced. I see the terrible destructiveness of what? Of these character defects, of these blocks, these liabilities blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit. And I'm beginning to learn. And you know who helps me learn this is all of you coming to a meeting, not interrupting people during their share, learning to time what I'm saying, right? I can't just sit here and take the whole room and this meeting hostage. I'm learning patience and goodwill. I'm seeing that in my sponsor. I'm seeing that in the rooms towards all men, even our enemies. And that's true because I've read this book. We're all so sick. We read it. We're going to read it further on. We've read it before. I mean, we've learned that we're sick. This is our course. And I've listed the people we have hurt. See, it says people, not just sex conduct. This is all people by our conduct. And I'm willing to straighten out the past if I can. See, everyone thinks you got to run out and start harming people with amends because your sponsors heard it repeated in the rooms, not in the book. So we have a lot of instructions coming up for making an amends. So don't just start running out and doing these things because it says innumerable forms. That means too many ways to count how you're going to straighten out your past if you can. I've seen people tell them to go out and find out your old first lover. Oh, they're married. They forgot about you. Why? That's going to cause a lot more harm. Watch the instructions in this book. So in this book, here it is. This is our Bible for survival. We're going to read again and again that faith. What's faith? I mean, go deep on that word. Ask people around you guys. Study these words. What is faith? I'm right now studying love. I'm a student of love. I'm going to learn what it means to love. What does it look like? Because I can't do this for myself. Remember, behavior or cognitive behavior therapy doesn't work. Remember, I'm beyond human aid. I can't do this life. We hope. That's an expectation that something good's going to happen, that you're convinced right now that God, that the spiritual principles, that being active in love, forgiveness, tolerance, what do they say? Patience, goodwill, will remove whatever of self has blocked you off from this power. And if you make a decision, what's this decision? Your step 3 decision every day to be a member, to live for God, and you have an inventory of your grocer. There it is, keyword. I mean, I know some people go into every single handicap. It says the big shit, the grocer handicaps. You've made a good beginning and you're going to swallow. And it takes time. Remember, this is not an overnight matter to digest these big chunks of truth about yourself, Nikki. See, I thought I was Mrs. Nice Guy. Probably David, I know, and even you, Justin, you know, we're free from our whatever it is, but I'm still liquid shitting on people. I see so many people I sponsor. Nikki, I'm sober 20 years. Yes. And you're sleeping with your secretary. You don't put any money in the basket and you got a baby in your belly, but you're not a female. Like, this is where we go. Nikki, you are liquid shitting on everybody screaming and you say you're sober, you're with God. And I love this note, and I'll get to David right here. And I just can't wait to hear what everyone says. But it's in Wally P's Back to Basic. He says it's not necessary for every newcomer to talk about every resentment or selfish act, because we're trying to get, the objective is to get to causes and conditions. And sometimes it takes only a few incidences to make clear which shortcomings have kept the newcomer blocked. See, I'm blocked from an intimate two-way relationship with the one who has all power. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki, for going through that. I really appreciate it. David, take us through those 2 paragraphs based on your experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah, absolutely. First sentence, if we have been thorough, I think there should be a question mark right there. You know, I've done these steps half-assed in a lot of different ways in the beginning when I first come around here. And I can tell you the result is always the same. You know, I fall back to sleep. inside of the fellowship, and the next thing you know, I'm acting out again and again and again. So have I been thorough about my personal inventory? And if I have written down a lot. I remember whenever I had 3 5-subject spiral notebooks full of resentments and the different things. That's how much that I wrote. Because when I read this book and it says we make a list of all the people with whom we were angry, then I was asked to go back and do that. I've been angry with a lot of people in my life, so right there alone was a lot. And but we've listed and analyzed our resentments. You know, there's an old saying in Alcoholics Anonymous: utilize, don't, or analyze, utilize, don't analyze. And I would rather utilize what I have found here than analyze what that is. We begin to comprehend their futility and their fatality. That will kill you. We have read that over and over and over on page 66. 7 different times it told us that that would kill us. If you wasn't here for that episode, please go back and listen to it. There is a lot of words right there that really connect to this. And if we don't get this out, it'll show up again. Trust me. So we've commenced. That means we've started. We're not finished. We've started to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, pity, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies. And if you'll hold your thumb there and run back to page 67 for just a second, that is an exercise that we was asked to do after we wrote the 3rd column of inventory. At the top of 67, though we did not like their symptoms, column 2, and the way these disturbed us, column 3, they, like us, were sick too. I always forget those last 3 words, were like us, you know. So, but we ask God to help us show the same tolerance, pity, patient, would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Well, that's the same thing that it's asking us just to recap on right here on page 70. You know, have we begun to see their fatality? But now, see, I'm not just praying that. Now I've learned tolerance, patience, goodwill toward all men, even my enemies. And I tell you, that's a powerful tool, because that could have never happened to me had it not been for this 4th step is laid out in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, where we look at them as sick people. Remember, our book said, like us, they were sick people. Don't forget that part. And whenever I look at it as someone who is sick, I don't need to come from that in a place of judgment, but of compassion. God, this is a sick man. How can I help him? Save me from being angry. Thy will be done. Back on 67. So some A-step work here. Listed the people that we have hurt by our conduct. Read those words very carefully. That's not asking for a list of names of the people. That's one of the questions that was asked in the 9. If you look back on page 69, that's about the 3rd or 4th question. Where I've been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate, and look at that very next one. Whom had we hurt? And so for me, I didn't go back and do a lot of names. I just did husbands and wives and mothers and fathers and children. And, you know, I would have never remembered all those names. I just wouldn't have. But anyway, it's asking us to recap on that here. And we are willing to straighten out the past if we can. There's some step 9 work that we're going to be coming into soon. In the book, you read again and again, faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Over and over, we've read here, faith without works is dead. But we've always got to remember that works without faith is just self-propulsion. We're just propelling self. That's all we're doing. So we hope that you're now convinced, after seeing all this, that God can remove whatever alcohol, drugs, sex, no, self-will with a little s, because that's what's blocked me off from him. This other stuff is just the effect. It's not the cause. That is the cause, self-will. If you made a decision, step 3, an inventory of your grosser handicaps, step 4, part 1, 2, and 3. Part 1, resentment. Part 2, fear. Part 3, conduct. Wow, I've only made a beginning up to this point. Shit. You know, I've done a lot of work to get to here, and you're telling me I've just now made a beginning? They said, no, David, you made a good beginning. That being so, then I've swallowed and digested, and we know what we do when we swallow it and digest. At some point, it comes out. and it's going to be big chunks of truth. And man, I tell you, it was so beautiful. My guy had me to write in my book right here. Are you willing to go on? Well, I promise you, I'm willing to go on now, because I mean, I've done a lot of work to get up to this point. I look at it as being in the OR. This is a very important piece of surgery. There's a lot of there's a lot of tumorous, cancerous poison being cut out of me. And I'm getting ready to go into the recovery room, and I'm going to heal in such a way that is going to be absolutely beautiful. It's just beautiful, the man that I've ended up becoming today. I'm just so grateful. I see it all around me with the men that I've been able to lead through this work. I'm able to see it with men that I haven't led through this work. But it's just a beautiful transformation. I've said this in other episodes that we've done. This is not about behavior modification. It's about spiritual transformation. It just is. And if I skip this part of the work, or I half-ass it, I promise you that transformation is not going to be complete. I may get relief, but at some point this is going to show back up. Self is going to trick me into believing one more time I can do this. I'm in a better place now. I know I've been down that road over and over and over and over. So, I'm going to continue to swallow and digest some big chunks of truth about me, not you, about me. But then I'm going to get to come and share with you how I did that. So this is a beautiful process. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, David. All right, have a couple of questions, one for each of you. Nikki, I really like how you took this paragraph, this sentence here. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. You said faith, love. You're exploring these terms. Why don't you take us and share a little bit of the evolution of your understanding of the term faith in this context? How has that evolved over the years that you've been applying these principles in your life?
Well, I really thank you for that question. Well, especially faith, because a lot of people will go like this. They'll come to me and go, Nikki, I have anxiety. And I'll say, well, if you have anxiety, then a doctor can write you some pills. They will. They'll write you literally a prescription. In my country, I'm in Canada, they'll write you a prescription. You've got anxiety. They'll give you something, whatever. I don't know. I don't want to misquote what pharmacy they're giving you. That's fine. But if I say, well, what if I ask you if you have fear? If you have fear, what's the prescription for fear? There's only one prescription. It's called faith. It's literally called faith. Like, because a doctor can't write you a prescription for faith. That's the stuff that is indispensable. So what do I see as faith? I see faith as an absolute commitment. I see it as 100% convinced belief without a doubt. What do I see as faith? It's hope. See that's why I always say, like, when you get into the spiritual principles, like, I'm going to be faithful. Okay. I'm going to have faith. Well, what does faith look like? Faith looks like me being courageous. Well, what does courageous look like, Nikki? It looks like me being patient. Well, if you're patient, what does that look like? That looks like I'm real tolerant. Well, if you're tolerant, what does that look like, Nikki? It looks like I got to get real honest. And if I'm real honest, that looks like I get real polite. And if I'm polite, it looks like I'm filled with gratitude. And if I'm filled with gratitude, wow, I'm real responsible. And if I'm real responsible, I've got a lot of faith. You see, that's why you can't, how do you do one without the other? It's like, what is faith? Isn't faith love? Well, what's love? Love is forgiveness. It's in your good book. You two made me jealous right before this podcast, because you have a book that says the good book and the big book, and it's all in one book. And I was like, I want one of those. And in your good book, it talks about the what is love? It's patience. It's kind. I think that's Corinthians. And so, I mean, in every good book, it says that. In every good book, it says love. I mean, that's what we're here for. We are here to learn how to love again. I forgot. I came to earth and thought, wow, I'm supposed to blot out my consciousness with you men. And I don't care. Sometimes I'm just like, for the mind. Sometimes I don't even care what you look like. I'm like, wow, your mind's so beautiful. And I start blotting out my consciousness. I need money. I start getting shiny things and toys. And I forget, Nikki, you're just here to love. You're just here to have faith. And now I'm just here to be a soldier, bringing home people to this way of living. So, I mean, that's a big question. Of course, we could talk forever about it. That's why I'm going to encourage and ask everybody, as Justin just asked me, what about faith? I'm going to ask everybody, could you do some research on faith and write into us, please, and let us know what your ideas are. Don't forget the 7th while you're at it.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. And anybody who wants to write in about their insights into faith, send an email to rico12pod@gmail.com. We'll get to those and we'll comment on those on a future episode. David, question I have for you, and it stays with faith here. You said faith without works is dead, but then you said works without faith is what? Propulsion of the self-will? Is that how you put that? Why don't you dive into that just a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. And I love your experience, strength, and hope on that, Nikki, for sure. Faith is something we've always had. We read through it thoroughly in We Agnostics. If you were not here for those episodes, go back and listen to that. Because it says, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. Bottom of page 53. You see, I always thought faith was only about faith in God. No, I have a faith in a lot of things that has nothing to do with God. My faith has been channeled in the wrong direction. So whenever I said, works without faith is self-propulsion, what I meant by that is I'm usually in collision with something or somebody. It's something that I go headstrong into, knowing that it's not the right thing. And usually with me, it was with my conduct. But I had faith that I was going to conquer that no matter what. But I was self was propelling me to do that. So I used to say it like this, I used to drink a lot of whiskey, a lot of whiskey. I just love whiskey, any kind of whiskey. I just love it. And every time that I went into the liquor store and I bought one of those and I uncapped it, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I had absolute faith what was going to happen to me by the time I took the last drink out of that bottle. I just knew. But I was fueled by self-propulsion in order to do all that to begin with. So today I want to channel my faith in a different direction. If you get a chance to read that at the bottom of page 53, or maybe we could do it here soon or whatever, there's 3 key words there that we need to look at. It says without knowing it, because usually we don't even know this is happening to us. Had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. And then when you get to the top of page 54, it said, who of us did not have a confidence in our ability to think and our reasoning? And I'm paraphrasing. It says, but what is that? What was that but a sort of faith? So we found that faith was involved all the time. But we had faith in the God of reason. And that's self-propulsion. So, yeah, faith is a very, very deep subject. And when we get to fear inventory or the fear section of the book, it tells us all men of faith have courage. I like that definition a lot. Courage. Men of faith have courage. So, I don't know. Whenever I have faith in something today, I absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's the right thing for me to do, and I'm going to do it. I have faith that that's going to work out. I just do. And that's not always. But, it's as we move through this process, and I'll just say this and I'll shut up. I went through these steps for the first time in 1994. Some of you might not even have been alive at that time. But after I went through them and all the pain and all the heartache of doing that and coming out on the other side with the spiritual experience that was just unbelievable, I never questioned whether these steps would ever work again or not. Even as I put half-ass into it, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I had faith that these steps would work. All I had to do was get the willingness to do it. And if you don't have the willingness, hang around. Self will beat you into that. It just will. So Anyway, thank you, Justin.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. All right, let's go into takeaways. Nikki, why don't you start us off? Give us some of the takeaways you have from this conversation.
Well, because we're on the very end of this chapter, I guess my final takeaway is this is how it works. If your life is not working for you, this is how it works. The previous 71 pages are going to tell you, and we're going to go into, a lot more. So stay tuned, because if your life is not working for you, this book will tell you how it works.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, David, takeaways from your conversation.
Big chunks of truth, swallowed and digested. I can tell you, if you've done the work thoroughly up to this point, right now, you're in a place that's absolutely unbelievable, because the man that takes the first 5 steps is not the same man that takes the last 7. We're walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe now. We have we have these tools that we'll be able to use in our daily life from now on. So, yeah, if you've done the work thoroughly up to this point, prepare for the adventure of a lifetime for sure. So, thank you.
Thank you, David. And my takeaway is a further development of an object lesson that I once heard about hope and faith. And today I had some courage thrown in there. I had some fear thrown in there to help me see this. If you out there feel like you are in a deep, dark cave, a tunnel with no way out, that you have no idea how to get out, lift up your head, look around, and look for that tiny shaft of light that is there. That is hope. That light at the end of the tunnel is hope. And what I used to say is faith is the willingness to take steps towards that light of hope, with the trust that it's not an oncoming train. And today, from our conversation, I had this additional thing: courage. What is courage? Courage is, and my sponsor tells me this, courage is nothing more than fear that has said its prayers. As I go forward, addressing my fear, saying my prayers, developing that faith, and moving towards that light, trusting that it's not an oncoming train, man, the hope that comes from that, from doing this work, has been so powerful in my own life. And I think that's my takeaway from today, and from what we've done over the last several weeks as we've gone through through this chapter, how it works, is I just got to keep pressing forward in faith, with courage and hope, that where I'm heading is that spiritual awakening, that spiritual experience, that light at the end of the tunnel. So everybody, keep coming back. It works when I work it, and you are worth it.